Thursday, October 17th, 2024, and a lot happened yesterday. Um, let's do the Trump stuff first, because I would like to end on a happier note and talk about Kamala at the end. Um, and I'm not even sure if this was yesterday. It seems like so much is happening all at once. Trump did a couple of events yesterday. I'm pretty sure yesterday he did a women's event and then a Univision event. And the women's event was on Fox, and it was, I think Ana Navarro mentioned this. It was filled with um, Republican Party loyalists. It was an audience of all women when he was doing a town hall, going to take questions from the women. But the whole thing was so like pre-staged. And when Fox aired it, they edited out all of the complimentary remarks that people, because the a woman would stand up and be like, "You were the best president we ever had," and then ask her question. So they just edit out the preamble part. Um, and he this is the one where he did say he was the father of IVF, which is hilarious. The man is so dumb. He thinks that when he hears about something or learns about something for the first time, that nobody else knows about it, and that now that he knows about it, he's the first one to know about it and to do something or to talk about it. Um, and so it was something about, I don't know. There was a question about IVF and reproductive health, and he tells the story about um, Katie Britt, who is a senator from Alabama, right? When Alabama courts ruled that an embryo is life, and therefore they had to stop in vitro fertilization. All IVF treatments had to stop because that was potentially killing. You were putting the life of that embryo in danger. Um, so it fucked everything up for a while in Alabama, and so I guess she talked to Trump, and he referred to her as um, what did he say? A beautiful. Uh, a, he complimented her looks before he described her as a congressperson, um, and which was very weird and misogynist and typical Trump. It's like, oh, it's a pretty lady. What does she want? I'll talk to the pretty lady. And and she was saying that this is a disaster. Now, because of states' rights, Alabama's gone too far, and things are blowing up for her. We gotta change course on our principled beliefs. That's the thing that drives me crazy about the Republicans. It's like, oh no, the public doesn't like it. We better do something else. It's like, you're supposed to be working for the public. Stop fucking us over to begin with, and then we all get mad. Anyway, um, so she tells him, and then he's like, "Oh no, no, we're," and in the process of telling the story, he says IVF, and then he goes, um, and she says, and it's fertilization, as if he had to ask her what's IVF. If you listen to him, he tells on himself all the time, and then. And so now he says, "Oh no, no, we're all for IVF." I'm sure he had no idea what it was before this controversy ever happened, but because he just learned about it and found out, "Uh-oh, I'm not doing well at this thing. We better have an opinion and say we love it." And he has ever since then. He's like, "Oh, we love IVF." It's like, but your policies are fucking it over. Like, he doesn't understand consequences at all, and he just expects everybody's going to be like, "Oh, okay," because everybody's done that his whole life. So that whole thing was a sham, um, from the get go, and 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 then he does this town hall in Univision, which was supposedly filled with undecided voters. They seem to have it was they asked him questions that are better, more substantive questions than any debate moderator has asked, any journalist has asked. These are like actual things. And there was a guy that got up, um, excuse me, whose name I cannot recall. He's from New Jersey, retired construction worker, now lives in Florida. Um, a Latino guy, and you could see it was really tough for him. And he said, I'm a former Republican, no longer registered." I hope that means he's not a registered Republican. But he's still registered to vote. And he said, "I want to give you a chance to win back my vote." and said the end of his presidency in the last few years, his behavior and his words were really troubling. Um, uh, he thinks what happened on January 6th, and he said your inaction was really disturbing. And when on January 6th, when you took so long to respond to people attacking the Capitol over COVID, and your I feel like we were misled. The public was misled, and a lot more lives could have been saved had we not been misled. In parentheses by your administration, and all of these people from your former administration are no longer supporting you, including your own vice president. How if they're not supporting you? I want to give you the opportunity to tell me why I should support you. It was such a thoughtful question, and you could tell it was tough for him to sort of make this challenge. And Trump got up there and just bloviated. First of all, the administration, 97% of my people are supporting me. That's not true. 40 out of 44 cabinet people are literally saying you should not be president. Not only not supporting you, actively working against you. So that was a lie. And then he said that there was hundreds of thousands of people came to Washington because they believed the election was rigged. No, they believed that because you told them that, you dumbass. And then he said he referred to the people that went to the Capitol as we. We didn't have guns. The other side have guns. And when I say we, I mean, and then he kind of trying to backtrack. He realized what he'd said. And he said, Ashley Babbitt was killed, but nobody died. Which is just false. I think 4 police officers died. Um, and I shouldn't laugh. But so he said nobody died. And then he literally said that what happened on January 6th was an act of peace and love. And that's when the guy who asked the question went like this. So I don't think he won that guy's vote back. Um, and I feel like the more people get, when asked directly those kinds of questions, somebody else asked him, this was just, uh, a guy said, well, can you please, I think he said, with all due respect, or no, didn't say do. He said, with respect, can you please explain your um, policy for gun control to the families of school shooting victims? And Trump says, well, we've got this Second Amendment and it's really important, and I would never take that away. People need guns for security and, also for entertainment and sport. Okay, so I guess school children are sport to him. That's good to know. It's laughable stuff if he weren't running to be the leader of the free world. Um, and I feel like the more that he does this and the more that he's exposed in these kinds of situations, the more people are going to get turned off. I realize that there is a base of people that are just they don't care. Somebody said it in today's show. They're just addicted, and they are. They're because they. We've said this over and over again. He allows them to hate as much as they want to hate. So he can do no wrong. Um, but at some point, there has to be some sort of come to Jesus moment. But it ain't going to be anytime soon. Uh, so so he does these things, and I think they were both. One was on Univision, and one was on Fox. Um, for his outreach, and she does this interview with Brett Baer, and I I felt like Brett Baer was hard on Trump when he interviewed him um, earlier in the um, sort of primary season, I guess, in the beginning of the year. Um, really, and going after him about all the people that don't support him, and why did you hire all these people if they were all the best people, but now you trash them and they don't support you, and it was, and Trump just says everybody that's against him is wrong. Um, so I kind of had hope that maybe he would not necessarily be friendly to Harris, but at least um, uh, be, you know, have some integrity and not disingenuous. And he started out attacking almost immediately, and she really held her own, and it was she kept steering the conversation back to, I want to talk about these policy issues. I want to answer the question by explaining to you what happened. This is what we tried to do for the border when we started the administration. This is what happened. And he kept interrupting her over and over and over again, to the point where it's like, as a viewer, that becomes, I guess if you want to see her fail, you're cheering for him. Yeah, go get her. But she came back at him every single time, answered the questions, talked about policy, talked about what she was going to do with the American people, didn't do any weaving, never talked about electric motors and boats and sharks or Hannibal Lecter, um, never insulted anyone. She answered questions with policy. And when he got to the point, because when she said, talked about Trump calling his American opponents the enemy within, and he showed that clip of bullshit, just edited out all the parts. I mean, he just, I don't threaten anybody. He threatens people every fucking day. And when she was like, nope. You and I both know that's not what I'm talking about. We've both seen it. And that's when shit was like, all right, she's on fire now. Um, you can't watch that and say that the woman is intimidated, or that she's not strong, or that she's afraid of confrontation. Um, and I think that probably for a lot of Fox viewers was a huge eye opener, if they bothered to watch it at all. Um, I assume that the ones that do watch it are the ones that are still interested. The ones that only care about, um, you know, praising Trump don't really give a shit what she has to say. But as long as she keeps chipping away, and I'm really annoyed by the people that. Oh, and then she did that event in I guess in Pennsylvania, um, near where Washington crossed the Delaware. Um, and she it was such a patriotic thing. She was there with all these Republican, you know, politicians and people with stature in the Republican Party, all supporting a ton of them on stage, and Kinzinger was there, um, and she turns into this huge patriotic thing about country over party, and how the founding fathers and the framers of the Constitution didn't always agree, but they fought, but they created these documents upon which we still live, and the importance of them, and that happened right over there in Philadelphia, and like it was just great. Um, so like, and that's America, that's pride. That's the whole thing, that and sort of that the idea that started from the convention, like taking back the flag and taking back patriotism. And so I think he had a pretty loser day, she had a pretty stellar day. And then I see, okay, now I'm going to end this on something negative, but I can't help it. um the Fox spin after her interview with Brett Baer was really telling Brett what a great job he did, like patting him on the head, which was just bizarre. And then the echo chamber of you really had her on the ropes, blah blah blah. It's bullshit. There were a couple of pundits that actually gave Kamala credit and said that's the kind of strength of leadership that people have been looking for, which I thought was fascinating to see anyone on Fox do that. And then I see on social media, um, these people are like, she did exactly what she needed to do with Brett Baer. Now go on Hannity. Fuck, no, she doesn't need to go on Hannity. It's that whole the thing that we've talked about in the comments, and we've talked about this since the beginning, the moving of the goalposts for her. Every time she gets criticized for not doing X, she does X, and then it's like, well, you didn't do Y. And then, all right, why isn't she doing Y? But nobody's talking about the fact that Trump has backed out of all these interviews, that he's you know, can't take questions um, and answer them in any way other than his usual talking points. I know that that's the same complaint about her, but her talking points are about policy and about helping people understand how we got where we are and why we are where we are. And his talking points are blubbering bullshit. Um, defending the fact that he that that he was told people in Ohio were eating pets and other things. I don't know what the other things are. Um, like the fact that they still double down on all these lies is just so ridiculous. But it's what are we gonna do? I will end on this part though. The the staff at Jimmy Kimmel wrote a thing for Dave Bautista, the former wrestler, boxer, fighter guy, super macho, big, muscly, um, He-Man kind of guy. Although, if you've ever seen him in a movie or on a talk show, he's like this sweet giant teddy bear guy. But so he does this thing in a gym with boxing and hitting shit and ripped to fuck, big bald head, and he goes, some guys like Trump because they think he's a tough guy. And he goes on for like 2.5 minutes about why he's not a tough guy. Um, he wears more makeup than Dolly Parton. He can't go in the rain. It tears him apart, like limb to limb. It's fan freaking tastic. Talks about him being a crybaby. He's like, "Why are you crying, Donald? Somebody grab you by the pussy?" It's pretty hilarious, and it seems to be flying around the internet, which is great. Hopefully, it falls into the algorithms of all those basement trolls that think Trump's a tough guy. Anyway, this is a long one today, but I just feel like that was a lot to get through. Oh, the one more thing, the View did one hot topic about the Menendez brothers, and it's embarrassing to hear people say that in the 90s people didn't um, have enough awareness of male sexual abuse. I and when you look at it from a lens from now, post Me Too, it's like how fucking unfair. So yeah, I think those boys probably should get out of jail. I don't know. They seem pretty psychopathic, but they've probably had some therapy while in prison, and they've been there a long time. So I would like them to come out and not be media stars, but that's not going to happen in the world that we live in now. Uh, However, I do recommend that you skip watching the Ryan Murphy miniseries on um, Netflix, because as Ryan Murphy likes to do, just ratchets up the homoeroticism, which is, I mean, these guys were brutally abused by their father, and to turn it into some sort of love story was real fucked up. Um, so I turned it off. I recommend not watching it. Just stick to the documentaries. They're more interesting anyway.